Hello, welcome to Empower and Ignite Transformation Podcast with Alicia and Nicole. How are you, Alicia?
I am doing good. I'm doing good. Now, I know you know that I just left Michigan and now
Yeah.
I'm back down here in Georgia. When I tell you this weather is so much more better down here, I'm warm again.
Oh my gosh, I bet. But today we have a little bit of warmer weather, but it is raining, but we are
Okay.
in the 60s today.
Nice. Look at there. Okay. Okay.
Definitely. So if you guys are new to our channel, please subscribe, like, and share. Don't just come and peek in or watch an episode. We want you to subscribe and share with other people.
Yes. Yes. And don't forget to follow us on social media at Empower Ignite too.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so are you excited about today's topic?
I am. I am excited because I think that this is a good topic because we're talking about, getting out there, meeting people. We have been kind of discussing what that looks like. So this topic right here, I think this is going to be great for so many people.
Okay, so are you going to share or you want me to share
Okay, so let's talk about it. I can
it?
share.
Okay.
Today we're going to be talking about social anxiety. What is social anxiety? How it can come across, how it's perceived, things of that nature, and ways to kind of overcome that social anxiety. Because again, we want you out there being social. We as humans,
Right.
we are built to build connections, and we need to have that social aspect.
Definitely, that's so true. And it's really important for people to be able to identify what would be causing them to have social anxiety, right? So, like you stated, anxiety is just the worry and nervousness, being anxious in social settings for social anxiety. And it can be where you feel self-conscious about yourself. And so then that would make you feel anxious or nervous and worried about what other people think of you or how they view you. And so then in social settings, it will bring about the social anxiety. So if that is you, if you are one that is challenged with experiencing social anxiety, this episode is definitely going to be a good one for you to be able to start to work through those issues and hopefully become more comfortable being in social settings.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And I think, like, just remember some ways that it can show up is this kind of overthinking interactions, right? Sometimes we go places and we kind of just overthink about, am I being judged? Are they, looking at me? Or did I say something that I shouldn't have said? Replaying those conversations over and over and over in your head, right?
Yeah.
And, there's other people who don't do anything. They cancel everything because it gets the best of them, the physical parts, like so,
Mhm.
they may avoid going to the restaurant with their coworkers because it's so many people that they just like, I'm just not going to physically put myself in that situation. I'm going to remove myself. And that's how they kind of avoid that social anxiety. But we want to be able to walk in those rooms, feel comfortable in who we are, and kind of avoid some of those negative feelings.
Yeah, definitely. So as you are going through what people are likely experiencing, that will cause them the social anxiety, I'm gonna kind of piggyback off of what you said. And so then we could kind of dismantle, or even just kind of challenge some of those thoughts that likely come to people when they're experiencing social anxiety. So I heard you said, embarrassing oneself, right? They may feel like when they're in a conversation, okay, I don't want to say something embarrassing. Or I don't know how someone would perceive what I said if it's right or wrong. Then also there's the I don't want to be rejected.
Oh, that's a big
So then they are hesitant about approaching someone or even starting a conversation. Uh, then people feel like I might look stupid. I've heard people say that, right?
Mhm.
Like, I don't want to look stupid. And I'm thinking in my mind, like, how could you look stupid? Like,
Mhm.
what would make you think that you would look stupid? Like, people, I think people often overthink how someone is thinking of them.
Right.
And that brings about the social anxiety piece because you're worried about what someone is thinking when likely they're not thinking anything about
Mhm.
you, or even they may be thinking for themselves, what am I going to talk about? Or how would this person perceive me? You
Yeah.
never know. Oftentimes, how when we were in school, the instructor or a teacher would say, if you got the question, likely there's more people in the room with the same question, right? So if you're experiencing something, likely others are experiencing that too,
Mhm.
and so you may be overthinking it in the sense of what if I don't have anything to say? Or what if they, think that what I'm saying doesn't make sense? They could also be thinking the same thing, or they could just be open to just hearing a different view.
Right, right. And sometimes, like you said, some people don't be thinking those thoughts, right? Like, we walk in the room, we're like, "Oh, everyone's looking at me." They could be looking at you because they like your hair. Maybe
Right.
they like your outfit. Maybe they like what you look like.
Mhm.
And that gives them a reason to look at you because you may walked in with, such confidence that for you, you're inside like, "Oh my goodness, everyone's looking at me." And you're feeling kind of self what's the term I'm looking for? Um,
Self-conscious.
Subconscious, yes, but they may not think any of those thoughts.
Mhm.
They may, see you up there speaking on a certain topic and you thinking of that embarrassment and all these other things, but they are thinking, "Wow, look how educated that person is. They
Yeah.
know so much. I
Hmm.
wish I could get up there and I can do that."
Definitely. And oftentimes, too, when you said that, like people are likely, oh, I like that person's outfit, or I like how they presented this or that. Oftentimes, it really is where people are paying attention to your body language to see if
Mhm.
you're approachable, to
Right.
see if they feel comfortable in just introducing themselves. So I think when people go back to the whole overthinking thing, that sends them into the social anxiety behavior is because they have to challenge those thoughts that comes to them as it relates to somebody else and how someone else is viewing them. But I also know you touched on the physical appearance, right? And sometimes people often is like, well, how do people see me, right? If they are engaging, like, and it really can be where that goes back to that confidence piece. Uh, do you like what you wore today? Do you like how you look?
Right.
Um, Everybody may not like your look, and that's okay. But you have to like you and being able to be confident in what you put on, how you show up. So
Mhm.
definitely those factors is important.
Right. Right. And I think that's really big is being comfortable in your own skin. And when you are more comfortable in your own skin, some of that social anxiety kind of does go away because I'm not overthinking. I'm not, using my nervous system is, overworking itself because I'm over here thinking people judging or people got negative perceptions. I walked in and I felt great about myself.
Right.
And that should be the biggest perception. That should be the biggest, feeling that makes me feel confident. And so when I interact, I should be able to interact as such, as a person who is feeling very confident because I felt great about myself when I walked in that room to begin with.
Yeah. So what I hear you saying is, okay, so I have self-acceptance and I'm
Mhm.
validating my own self. So when I'm in the room with others, it isn't that I'm seeking their validation because I've already validated me and who I am, and I am enough to be in any room that I walk in, and I
Yes.
accept myself.
I absolutely love the way you word that. That is exactly that is exactly it. Yeah, you have worded that perfectly. That
Oh, thank
self-acceptance.
you. But then also I wanted to touch on people may be experiencing social anxiety due to feeling like, will they be liked, right?
Mhm.
So they may be like, okay, so will they like me? But then also some people don't like to be noticed, right? So they don't want the attention on them. That brings about the social anxiety piece because they're like, I just wish I could just be in a corner somewhere and nobody could see me or nobody pays attention to me.
Mhm.
And that piece is where, whether depending on personality traits of whether or not you're an introvert or an extrovert, right? Sometimes, of course, extroverts are social butterflies and they're not going to likely have that issue. But an introvert is more so inclusive and really like to be alone.
Mhm.
And they don't necessarily talk just to talk, right? They're not the social butterfly. Um, they're more so, they talk when they have to and it's necessary, but just not for fluff. And it's nothing wrong with that because definitely, your personality is your personality. So
Right.
not, saying that there's something wrong with it, but if it is where you know the social anxiety, you feeling like I don't want the attention on me, is preventing you from
Mhm.
interacting with others. It's causing you to isolate. Then that's when those things become an issue, right?
Yes, yes, you make some great points. And I think, like you said, is knowing who you are and what you want to achieve. Now, if the goal is to walk in that room and I just want to be in the room and I am a, introvert, like I do keep to myself, I don't want to be out socially. Well, maybe to feel more comfortable in getting in that room, maybe you'll go a few minutes early before the event start so then you could be where you want, where you feel comfortable to just be there. But now if the goal is to, I know I need to be open, I know I need to go in that room and meet people, then that's where, like you said, is just knowing what, just feeling that comfort within yourself to be
Yeah.
able to make those steps and make the changes that you need to be able to walk into those rooms.
Definitely. And then too, when you think about it, social anxiety oftentimes hinders people from actually, living and fulfilling things that they would want to achieve, right? Because they become afraid. And so then they don't act on things that they would want to act on, right? They might not go out on the date. They may
Right.
not go to the co-working after work event or
Mhm.
socialize with others because they're so paralyzed with the fear,
Yes.
the worry, so that it doesn't allow them to actually live and be fulfilled and enjoy themselves.
Yes, yes. And then that's where we have to start looking at some of the, what can we do, right? And that's the big thing. What can we do? Because I do have that. I have that, let's say that tight chest, or, my palms is sweating when you walk into the room, or, you start breathing heavy, hyperventilating, things like that. What can we do to kind of help us still reach those goals?
Yeah. And so when that is an issue where it's hindering you and paralyzing you from actually doing the things that you want to do, you have to start to definitely dismantle negative thoughts, right? Challenge irrational thoughts
Hmm.
that will be coming to you. And so often people think that they may be, I don't know how to necessarily challenge or dismantle a negative thought. Thoughts are going to come to you, right? They're going to come to all of us. We are going to think so many thoughts a day, right? So you're not
Right.
going to be able to prevent thoughts from coming. But when you start to dismantle or definitely challenge irrational thoughts. It's not just you, of course, would start to say to yourself, an example would be if you told yourself, I'm going to go to this event and no one is going to want to sit next to me, or no one is going to want to talk to me, right? It would be where you start to challenge that, and dismantle that in the way of what would make me think that no one wants to sit next to me and talk to me? How does that even make sense, right? Because the likeliness of the event, there's going to be seating for everybody. So I'm going to sit next to somebody, but also they don't know me. So why would they even think anything negatively about me? So it really is where you start to challenge irrational thoughts, but then you also replace. So it's
Mhm.
not just that you would simply challenge, you now have to replace the negative with the positive. And so then you would say, when I come to the event, when I go to the event, I'm going to be accepted and received. I'm going to meet new people that I haven't met before. They're going to be open. Like really saying something positive, positive self-talk versus the negative.
Yes. Mhm. And, that's a good way, right? Because it's starting in a way of tackling inner systems first and what's going on within yourself. And, I always talk up to people about asking yourself, "But why?" Ask yourself those questions, those what, those how, things like that. But when you look at especially "but why," and you keep breaking it down, like, I'm feeling anxious about walking into this room, but why? I think everyone is gonna look at me, but why? Because my hair isn't how I feel, but why? When I was a kid, someone used to talk about my hair, right? And
Right.
we just keep breaking those things down until you start realizing, oh my goodness. And it becomes that light bulb moment of I'm acting like this now because once upon a time someone said something about my hair. And now I think every time I walk in the room, my hair has to be perfect or it needs to be this and the other. But just tracing back, why do you feel this way about yourself? And that will really help in reframing those thoughts
Right.
and putting in more positive thoughts into yourself, right? Speaking
Yeah.
that positivity of I like what my hair look like, no matter if he or she doesn't. And that's the all the way breaking down of what I feel.
Definitely. I love that, Alicia. Oh my gosh. Because I'm hearing, okay, so I'm identifying where did this thought come from? What experiences shaped me, right? Like, how did I get to this, right? Where did this originate from? And when
Mhm.
you start to ask the why and keep breaking it down, you're like, oh, this came from this experience. This came
Right.
from when this person said that, and I took it on as ownership. And
Correct.
now I'm carrying it. Okay, look at you, Alicia. Hello.
And yeah,
Yes, period. And so then you
yeah.
can dismantle.
Right. Right.
Yeah, because we
And I
don't
think
want
that
nobody to be
that's
stuck.
correct. Correct. We don't want you to be stuck in the cycle, the hamster wheel of going on and on and on. And so first, if we do the inner work, right, then we can start transitioning ourselves to maybe I'll start with the low pressure environments and I'll start doing that. I have social anxiety when it comes to being social with, let's say, your peers. Maybe I'll go in a small group of peers of two or three
Right.
and try that. Maybe I might start even smaller and even just go up to one person and introduce myself, right? Like we don't have to just jump in and be like, I'm going up in front of 100 people and I need to get rid of all this social anxiety. Let's start small. Let's start
Right.
within ourselves, small little steps to build that gap.
Definitely tackling and just really like putting yourself out there, and like you said, small steps gradually.
Yes.
Yeah, one bite at a time, right? I know it's some like saying, but I get them sayings mixed up. I think they say, how do you conquer an elephant or something? Is it one bite at a time?
I think, isn't it you only can one chew at a time?
Something, but you gonna chew and
So
bite something,
we're
right?
there.
Definitely.
So so yes, I think that that's going to be really big in getting started to break that social anxiety is finding a comfortable way to sit down within yourself, dismantle some of those beliefs
Mhm.
because that's going to be huge, and then start small. Start small in conquering whatever that fear is.
Right.
Start small, and then a lot of times too where is the perception, right? Because we may have a perception once we get all but whys down to the finest one. but is that perception ours or is that perception society? Did our perception come from our parents? Maybe our parents think that our hair and two pigtails look wild and we thought we liked it. Is that our perception? Did that perception change how we feel about situation, which is why now we feel anxious and have anxiety when we walk into the rooms based off of someone else's perception?
Yeah, that goes back to that self-acceptance,
Yes.
and validating yourself. And if you like it, if you're okay with it, definitely being okay to interact with others and showing up as your authentic self. I'm big on that. So
Right.
definitely, I think that's really important. I'm trying to think about just in knowing that the social anxiety can impact your life in the negative. It can hinder you from
Mhm.
actually living the life that you desire. So it's
Right.
so important for people to start to identify what keeps them from actually taking steps to be more social. Even when you think about dating, right? Sometimes people are like, well, I don't know what we're going to talk about. Or I don't know if this person is going to like me, right?
Do you like me?
Right. But if you got to the date piece or part, I'm
Right.
assuming somebody likes somebody because nobody would have asked somebody out, right?
Correct.
So you're not going to necessarily know till you go if you have something in common, if you're compatible, but likely you had a couple of conversations before you went on a date, or if you did not, and it is where, it could be a blind date, I guess, or, you may not have had a lot of conversation, but you are getting to know someone, right? So I know people say when you are dating, you're collecting data.
Hmm.
Um, but I think in choosing to even go on a date, you have to be confident in yourself. So oftentimes people are experiencing the social anxiety because they are not confident. They're not accepting of themselves. So if they go somewhere, if they go on a date, if they interact with others, they're so concerned about and consumed with what others think of them.
Yes. And you know
That's
what?
what, mm-hmm.
This is so big, right? Because what we do is when we start dating, we put our best foot forward, which is great. Our social anxiety would be like, oh, let me make sure I'm doing this because I don't want that rejection. I don't want, him or she to feel some type of way. So let me go ahead and do this and do that. And you're doing it right, but you're not being your authentic self. And that's where you get in relationships and you be like, I didn't know you was really like this. And I didn't know because your social anxiety, you thought, let me just do because I was anxious, let me do the best thing, right? And let me not show
Right.
who I am because I'm overthinking what they want from me or how they perceive me or things of that nature versus just focusing on being who I truly am. And then now all of a sudden they don't like me for or they don't respect my differences, but it's like they never got to see it up front because you
Yeah.
kind of hid it because you was anxious on if they wouldn't like you.
Yeah. You presented with the mask.
Correct.
And definitely, if someone, say you do show up as your authentic self and they don't like you, right? Or it isn't where you're compatible, because I don't want to say somebody necessarily don't like you. It can just be where, oh, the person is cool. They're cool to be a friend, but they're not going to be my person. And
Right.
you want to know that early on. It doesn't mean it's something wrong with you. It just is where people have desires and they want certain things when they're looking for a person. You may not have all of the boxes checked for that person, but it doesn't mean it's something wrong with you. It just means your person is still out there. And so I just really hope that people realize if you date, if you go to a event or are out and say you don't make the friend, say if it's not dating and you just didn't click with the girls or, the guys just didn't get you. It doesn't mean there's something wrong with you.
No. No, because the thing about it is if you click with everybody, then you're not original. Like you're just following the trend. You're following just the like who are you? Because everyone is different. And
Right.
as you will click with certain people and you know how you click with certain people, you can't expect that you will click with everyone else either.
Yeah.
And that's where, people don't like to no one someone doesn't like me, that seems so,
Right.
rare for people, but there is such thing of your personality just not being a good fit for them. That doesn't mean you're a bad person, but
Definitely.
there's other people who personalities is not a good fit for you, and you have said that. So,
Hmm.
we have to be aware of those things, socially aware. It's not that she don't like me because, whatever. We're different. We have different
Yeah.
values, we have
That's
different
There
outlooks,
you go. Different
feelings.
values, different morals. It might not even be where it could just be where, like, oh, we don't, we're not compatible in certain areas that would make me want to have a friendship with the person. I could still be cordial with you, but I just wouldn't go any further. And it doesn't mean that you're a mean person. It doesn't mean that you're an unlikable person. It doesn't mean something's wrong with you. It just is that our personalities would likely not coincide. We would clash. It wouldn't work.
Yeah, and that's
Yeah,
okay.
it
That's
is. It's so okay.
that's how you are unique,
Yeah,
you know?
because I know they
So,
say it's like 8 billion people in the world or something
yeah,
like that. So
yeah,
listen, we're not gonna be friends with all 8 billion, right? All you need, and really, friends, when we get on that subject, right? Remember, that's really a word that you shouldn't use or you shouldn't give someone that title loosely. So,
mhm,
just know that friendships and really having that's work. Relationships are work.
yeah,
So definitely showing up as your authentic self so people can accept you for who you are, but you
mhm,
must accept yourself first,
yeah,
and validate you and be okay with being you. And then likely is not likely, then you get to present and the person gets to know you and then they decide for themselves. And it doesn't mean it's something wrong with you if they choose not to move forward.
correct. Because I would definitely want someone to like me for who I am and not the person that I'm presenting to put on because it works for them.
Right. I
So,
know.
yeah. So
Definitely.
social anxiety is, I mean, this is a big thing because again, as humans, we crave that connection and we should find connections and we should keep meeting people as we grow, right? Because
Mhm.
as we grow, we change, the times have changed, our friendships have changed. The friendships you have from high school to college to now, adult, 30 plus, 40 plus, 50 plus, 60 plus, those have changed and they are changing and it's okay, but just be open and to be open to meeting new people along your route. And so you have to kind of, fight that social anxiety to put yourself out there and not overthink and not worry about things and just be authentically you.
Yes, definitely. And not to hinder, because that's what you're saying. Listen, don't hinder, don't stunt your growth in networking and connecting with people at whatever age you are. And be okay with you and who you are. Yeah, so I agree totally.
This was a good topic. This was a really good topic to touch on because, again, we're still at the top of the year. So we're still having time to make this year, 2026, our best year, where we are working on ourselves. We are, tackling some of those or dismantling, should I say, some of those thoughts that we have about ourselves and rebuilding new traditions and a new love for ourselves.
Yeah, I definitely know the more that our subscribers become self-aware, and learning all parts of themselves and definitely doing that work, not because we provide therapy on this channel, because we don't, but when you become aware, then you start to think about, okay, so should I seek a therapist? Should I,
Right.
what is it that I need for me to grow, right? And that's the piece that I'm hoping that our subscribers get, that, definitely we must all do our work.
Yes.
And so this topic was awesome.
Yes, yes. And that's what, and you said it best, because if you realize that when you start dismantling, there is more that needs assistance, or you need to understand more about how to process some of these thought processes that are affecting you, that are impacting your social anxiety, then it's a good time to really go and seek, and find a therapist, a counselor, someone you can really sit down and have those experiences and open up and share.
Yes, definitely. So,
All
once
right.
again, if you are new, please subscribe, like, and share. Until next time.
Bye.